Elon Musk says 3 significant improvements to FSD will roll out roughly every 2 weeks. Should be really shining bright by late April or early May. The Tesla team is making a lot of progress with FSD right now, and that progress is not going to slow down, it seems. AJ thinks this means the potential and or capabilities of FSD will be glaringly obvious to everyone by then. And this is generally good news for the EV industry. Shell is to unload 1,000 gas stations and pivot to EV charging. We are upgrading our retail network with expanded electric vehicle charging and convenience offers in response to changing customer needs. Some people are talking about the slowing EV transition, but looking at what's happening here, yeah, the transition is not stopping. Tesla just hired a semiconductor manufacturing expert to help with battery production. Tesla has been looking at the semiconductor industry as an influence on its own manufacturing effort, and Elon Musk said that Tesla looks to replicate the accuracy and scale of the semiconductor business in the battery and EV manufacturing world, and now it's hiring this person with a lot of experience in that industry. The company is also looking at its factory layouts as a computer chip, looking to optimize every aspect and utilize as much space as possible. Therefore, it makes sense for Tesla to do this. This new hire has 30 years of experience in the semiconductor industry. This was a really good exchange. This Dojo Dead asked James, how will Tesla ever compete with Nvidia, both on performance and cost? And do they even need to, since they are already buying Nvidia GPUs? I think it's dead. But then why would Tesla invest $500 million into building a new Dojo facility if it was dead? Why do they keep building Solar Roof while it is effectively dead? This is a pet project that likely never goes anywhere. But then Sawyer shares this post, to which James says that does sound promising. Ernesto is a certified Tesla installer, and he shared some interesting details about the costs of the solar roofs deployed by Tesla. It depends on many variables, but the new gen solar roof reduced its components by 7x. We are installing our first with a new system in 2 weeks with PW3. We want to be around $45 to $50 per square foot. Tesla solar roof costs have to come down for the roofs to be deployed in big scale. Here are Tesla sales in daily reporting countries in Europe. Q1 is currently trailing behind the past 3 quarters in the daily reporting countries. The drag is coming from Model Y being offset partially by pretty strong Model 3 sales. These countries represent roughly about 1 in 4 Tesla sold in Europe. The deliveries from China also just came out. The number is 12,000, and year-to-date China numbers are 3.9% down versus 2023. Considering that there are quite a few discounts right now and incentives available for people to take deliveries in China, James thinks Q1 is looking pretty soft, and his last forecast of 430,000 he thinks is likely going to be too high. The quarter is now trending towards 420,000 deliveries. I do expect a lot more noise as analysts realize that they have to reduce their delivery estimates. That will put more pressure on Tesla stock to go down in the short term. And if you do remember, Tesla started offering inventory discounts on Model Y vehicles with hardware free in China. So we could see configurator price cuts in China as well. In the meantime, Farzad says he just had his best drive ever on FSD V12.3 in Austin, Texas. And AJ responded to this comment from someone, meanwhile, sales are shrinking for Tesla. He takes us back to 2007. iPod sales are shrinking. Quick, let me sell my Apple stock in 2007. It's July 2022. Nvidia's earnings dropped 59% quarter over quarter, and next quarter outlook is poor. So quickly, let's sell all of our Nvidia stock as well. Now, to be fair, the stock first did go down pretty substantially, but then it did go up a lot. This news, I think, is actually really bad for the legacy automakers in the long term, and for Tesla, therefore, it's actually good news. The U.S. Energy Department on Tuesday, today, will unveil final rules that will significantly soften its proposal that would have electric vehicles EV mileage ratings to meet government fuel economy requirements in 2027. The decision is a win, supposedly, for the Detroit 3 automakers and the United Auto Workers Union that raised alarm that the proposal could have resulted in U.S. automakers facing $10.5 billion fine through 2032 for not meeting fuel economy requirements. So basically what's happening is these legacy automakers will be able to continue producing gasoline-powered vehicles, and they don't have to make as many EVs as previously they thought they would have to avoid these penalties, which in the long term, I think is actually going to hurt them, because that's where the future is. If you are not a part of the future, if you resist the future will eventually destroy you. So these automakers, in the meantime, they will actually make some money, but they will let Tesla run and they will not focus on EVs as much. So it's actually good news for Tesla, because the next generation vehicle is not coming this year, obviously, and them not being focused on EVs means less competition for Tesla over here.
FSD beta 12.3, driving directly into the sun, not an issue. In the past, version 11 would freak out and give me the red hand asking for help. Let's see, it's about to make a right turn here. I'm having trouble seeing. It is drifting a little bit in the lane, but it's really good. Directly into the sunlight, not freaking out, so did well there.
Dave Lee says, not all my Tesla FSD V12.3 drives are perfect, but this afternoon FSD did a perfect drive home for me. Smooth as butter, whole drive was perfect. All the acceleration, braking, turning, everything. Tesla certainly had some sort of a breakthrough with this latest version. Koreans are raving about FSD too. There's something to keep in mind if your vehicle has hardware 4. We are receiving some reports that FSD V12.3 is sometimes not successfully installed in the vehicles, but there have been no issues at all with hardware 3, so I assume that Tesla will fix this relatively quickly. I'm also happy to see that I'm not the only Canadian who's not receiving V12.3. Seems like Canada has been completely left out, but usually by now, with older versions at least, we Canadians would have it. But not this time. This post attacking Tesla got 1.6 million views on X, and it got community noted. He said, hot take, it should only be called full self-driving if the auto manufacturer takes full responsibility for the car's actions. Everything up to that point is a driving assistant. Tesla has been selling their $12,000 Lie for 8 years now. Jerry Rig, Everything's channel is being sponsored by Ford to advertise Blue Cruise ADAS. He did another post. Imagine you just paid $12,000 for something called full self-driving, and then the manual tells you to keep your hands on the steering wheel at all times. And here's a community note again. Full self-driving is explicitly stated by Tesla as still being in beta, meaning development is still currently ongoing and not yet finalized. It also points out that Jerry Rig is sponsored by Blue Cruise. I love community notes. Oh, Elon Musk seriously called out Don Lemon. Someone said, I don't think Don Lemon is very smart. He fails to grasp very simple concepts, to which Elon replied, on a chart that measured personality and intelligence, Don Lemon would be in the worst quadrant, stupid asshole. Electrics reporter Fred weighed in on the situation despite the fact that I agree with Elon that Don did a poor job with most of that interview. This is not okay. This name calling and bullying from Elon is terrible to see. I really wish Elon would be more kind and positive, because this sort of behavior then empowers his millions of fans to act the same, and it degrades the level of conversation on this platform.
If the test for a doctor is lowered, then the probability of them making a mistake and killing someone is obviously going to be higher.
Wait, say that again. I'm not sure I understand what you said. I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Yes, if the standards for passing medical exams and becoming a doctor, or especially something like a surgeon, if the standards are lowered, then the probability that the surgeon will make a mistake is higher. They're making mistakes in their exam. They may make mistakes with people, and that may result in people dying.
What evidence do you have, though, that they're lowering the standards? There's no evidence of that.
I believe there is.
There's no evidence of that, Elon. What is the evidence?
I believe they have literally lowered the standards at Duke University, and that is what the article was referring to.
There's no evidence.
Saying they have not lowered the standards?
There's no evidence about lowering standards, and I think that there is.
I believe that is a false statement you're making.
Okay, well, we'll figure it out. And there's no evidence that standards are being lowered, that DEI is affecting medicine. Actually, only 5% of doctors are black.
If the standards, like let's say, I think that particular thing was referring to surgeons. Let's say a surgeon is asked to, a surgeon in training is asked to do a series of operations under the supervision of a senior surgeon, and they get a bunch of those operations wrong. If that happens, and yet they are still approved to be a surgeon, the probability that someone will die, I think, at some point is high.
Okay, I understand that, but that's a hypothetical. That doesn't mean it's happening.
I didn't say it's happening.
You didn't say it was happening.
I said it will. I said if we lower standards, people will die.
I'll just say this. I'm not upset with Elon making that comment. Yesterday, I did a poll about why is Tesla stock up about 6% in a single day. And 50% voted because of price increases and 50% voted because of FSD. Exactly 50%. I personally think it had more to do with price increases, but really it should have been because of FSD. I would assume that mostly retail Tesla stock investors voted in this poll. So I think certainly there are some more retail Tesla stock investors that are buying more Tesla stock right now because of what they see with FSD, but I don't think institutional investors are doing that. For example, Gary says that the price increases that happened are worth about $10 per share when looking at the increased earnings. On the other hand, I didn't see a single analysis today, said Gary, showing the impact of FSD v12.3 on earnings or cash flows. AJ says that Tesla continues to retain its #1 rank as most cash generative automaker globally. Global Auto's free cash flow is dropping significantly, specifically in Q4 of last year. This is primarily driven by price wars as well as the EV transition. And here's the same chart, but zoomed in. Ag Energy has turned on this $40 million Megapack energy storage system in Scotland. They are proud to partner again with Tesla. I consider Rohan now to be Tesla's PR department. He says, I had to admit my skepticism years ago when Elon Musk said that the Tesla energy business might eventually be bigger than the Tesla vehicle business as battery costs come down and electricity system operators understand the grid benefits, distribution and transmission. There seems to be no end in sight to the growth trajectory globally. Countries and regions with fair market participation rules for storage will end up as the winners with more efficient and cheaper electricity grids for all consumers. And it seems like Tesla is going to put together a list of all the projects that Tesla Energy is involved in. That would be greatly appreciated because sometimes it's a bit difficult to keep track of all of them. Okay, this is actually somewhat related to Tesla because even though Tesla is not involved with this at all, Tesla was mentioned. This is about a Ford vehicle being in a fatal crash, and the federal regulators are now investigating the crash because Ford's assistant driving technology was involved. So Fortune wrote this headline. When it's about Tesla, of course, they are going to put Tesla in the headline. When it's about Ford, Ford is not even mentioned in the headline, but Tesla actually is. NTSB investigates fatal crash possibly involving partially automated driving system, and this time Tesla Autopilot is not involved. I'm not really upset with the headline, but it's just funny how even when Tesla is not involved, they still find a way to mention Tesla. Ford is working on releasing new electric vehicles, a small electric pickup and an SUV starting around $25,000. According to Bloomberg, the team, which contains less than 100 people, is developing these vehicles. The sources say the first model will launch in 2026, starting prices around $25,000, and it will rival the low-cost EV Tesla is working on. BYD now has offerings as cheap as $9,700, by the way. If you saw my last video, you saw that the CEO of Nvidia, Jensen, closed his 2-hour keynote being flanked by 10 different humanoid robots on stage, all Nvidia partners using their Thor platform. These were holograms or something like that, but these are robots. For example, this one is already doing some tasks. And BYD says it is going to use Nvidia Drive platform. It's basically a car computer, and it's the same type of thing Tesla used to buy from Nvidia before moving to their own chips. So Nvidia versus Tesla. Goldman Sachs published this research note about phases for the AI trade, and I think it's important to understand these to really realize how much is Tesla competing with Nvidia? This is going to be a bit of a deep dive, but I think it's important to understand. So let's begin. The success of Nvidia does not harm Tesla. To the contrary, it validates the AI strategy that Tesla has been executing years before all the hype began. It's funny to see many suggest that Nvidia sales and profits shooting up like a rocket is a bad thing. Full disclosure, Omar has large positions in both Nvidia and Tesla. As Goldman Sachs points out in a recent note, the rise of Nvidia has been entirely earnings driven with little to no expansion of forward multiples. The stock is up because they are making a boatload of money and sales are growing like crazy. But the growth of Nvidia represents just the tip of the iceberg, the first phase of the AI trade. Looking further ahead, Goldman notes that investors are now thinking about the next stages of the AI trade. The first phase of explosive earnings growth was in Nvidia. Why? Because everyone needs Nvidia chips to create these cutting-edge AI models. These models will transform the world, but they need to be created first. That's why you are seeing huge sales growth in training compute preceding huge earnings growth from the actual AI models themselves. The second phase of earnings growth will come from the infrastructure providers. These are the customers of Nvidia, like the cloud service providers, semiconductor firms, data centers, utilities, etc., who will make money from the boom in AI training. Cloud service providers would not buy Nvidia chips if they did not believe they could make even more money renting those chips out. Therefore, you would expect to see revenue in this second phase to be some multiple of the revenue Nvidia is bringing in. The third phase will be AI-enabled revenues. These are companies that are able to leverage AI customers of the cloud service providers and infrastructure players, or maybe customers of Nvidia directly. These companies will find a way to incorporate AI into their products that deliver faster earnings growth. As with the infrastructure players, they would not spend billions of dollars on infrastructure and training compute if they didn't think they could make even more billions with the AI features they are building. Tesla is one of the companies in this third phase. It is a business that has been set up to leverage this wave of AI growth in ways that will be transformative to their product lineup. As we move into this third phase, I would expect to see Tesla top and bottom line growth on par with or exceeding what we are seeing from Nvidia today. Phase 4 is productivity gains. This earnings growth will be seen by virtually every company that uses AI-enabled products. The Phase 4 companies are customers of the Phase 3 products. They use these AI-enabled products to make more money than they could have before. For example, let's say I'm a business that buys a bunch of autonomous Tesla vehicles or robots and has them do work for me. It could be some ordinary guy or some ordinary business, but they could still see huge earnings growth. Think about the lawyer who can now use AI to work on a case, get better results, and have more billable hours with less staff. In the final phase, the benefits are extremely broad-based. This is why I laugh at people who point to Nvidia's growth as a problem for Tesla. Tesla is an Nvidia customer for many years, though they are increasingly using their own chip designs. Their businesses do not have much overlap today. The success of Nvidia should be celebrated by all and is a sign that we are entering a new industrial revolution that will drive earnings growth across the economy in multiple phases, as I have outlined in this post. Jason commented on Omar's post, the later the phase, the more leveraging of AI to solve problems, the more money to be made. This is just the beginning of massive growth in AI-related technologies. It feels like 1993 when this browser was launched, enabling more people to use the internet. Networking, hardware protocols like TCP and HTTP, browsers and ISPs provided the initial growth phase. Then Google's search engine cash cow, which was built on top of everything previously mentioned and was stage 4, came later. Whoever provides the final interface to the user will apply the most leverage of all underlying technology. Stages 3 and 4 will likely leverage not only the overall growth trend of AI, but all of the productivity gains of lower stages. Nvidia will likely leverage later stages as well, so it's not just a stage 1 company, but the extent to which it does this is unclear. Nvidia currently holds significant influence and foresight in the direction of this entire industry, whereas developers of the internet's early technologies did not focus on search engines technology such as Google's PageRank algorithm. Tesla will be both stage 3 and 4 in my opinion, possibly also stage 2, and will also replace billions of hours of human driving. Aside from the lives say the math behind the value created by Tesla to replace the billions of hours of human driving is truly astronomical. And then, of course, there's the Tesla bot. And the thing is, Tesla is actually really good at manufacturing. A lot of these companies that are working on bots, humanoid robots, their expertise is not in manufacturing, but Tesla has already built up that expertise, and Tesla is also good at software. That combination of skills is extremely rare, and that combination is absolutely lethal. And on top of all of that, Tesla is still operated like a startup, giving it further advantage over other companies. And I think it is really obvious at this point that humanoid robots will actually work. Look at this one. It puts the things in the blender. And keep in mind, this is just the beginning. Imagine what this is going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. Not only will it be mixing all of these things, it will be doing all of that really fast, and while possibly multitasking and doing a bunch of other things. Imagine a robot with 10 arms. It's a bit scary. I would rather have 2 hands because it looks maybe a bit more friendly. I don't want them to look like a spider, just, I don't know. I wouldn't feel at ease. But yeah, it served this cup. Pretty good. In an interview with Lex Freeman, Sam Altman teases a new model release. Perhaps it's going to be GPT-5. That's it for today's video. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching.